In the previous two episodes, I sailed from Fernando de Noronha in Brazil to Îles du Salut, or French Guiana, and enjoyed those islands for a few days. Here I continue another 600 miles northwest to the island of Tobago, the northeastern component island of Trinidad and Tobago. When I arrived at Îles du Salut, there was a small boat anchored there. The crew were two 19-year-old Norwegians just out of high school named Anna and Julie, who had sailed Anna's father's boat from Europe, a remarkable adventure, and now were turning around and heading north to Trinidad. The next boat to arrive was this large Fontaine Pajot catamaran called Cerebral Sabbatical, with a crew of 5. The permanent crew are a semi-retired neurologist, Gerard, also known as Doc, seated in the middle here, and another Norwegian woman nicknamed Mara as skipper, holding the microphone. For their circumnavigation, they took on a rotating roster of additional crew, here Owen, Ellie, and Josephine, and they have a YouTube channel called Ripple Effect that I will link in the description. 2 other boats arrived later and anchored behind us, and the Cerebral Sabbatical crew invited us all to join for a karaoke evening, which was a lot of fun the first time I had done that, led off by Mara, who is a very energetic and hard-working skipper. Most remarkably, Mara is an entrant in the 2026 Golden Globe race, and since completing their circumnavigation in Florida shortly after me, she is hard at work on her GGR race monohull in Europe. She is very active on Instagram as Classic Mara. See the link in the description. Before they left the next day, I gave Mara my unused Jordan Series drogue, which is required equipment for the GGR, but which we both hope she never needs to use, along with 2 Norwegian flags left by the previous Norwegian owners of Sea Change, and various other goodies I no longer needed. There goes Cerebral Sabbatical with Gerard at the back there waving, and steering on the top, driving, is Mara, the Golden Globe 2026 racer. On the front is Owen, on the top is Josephine, and Ellie is somewhere, I think, finishing taking care of the anchor. Yep, they're off to Tobago. I may see them there in a couple of days. The next morning, I too headed out for Tobago, again taking advantage of the continuing, if weakening, Guyana current for a fast 4-day trip averaging 150 miles each day, reaching in the northeast trades. The green dots on my Predict Wind tracker shown here mark my regular evening postings to my blog. It's Thursday, the 17th of April. I had 4 days at Îles du Salut, and the last 2 were horribly rolly at night because of these big swells that we're riding through now, generated by pretty strong winds and lots of squalls the last 2 days. But today, been pretty good. Had a few small squalls come through, but mostly it's been pretty clear like this. Probably blowing 15 to 20. We're doing 7, 8, 9 knots because we're in the Guinea current again. And looking good. Not sure exactly where we're going. Tobago is most likely, maybe Trinidad, maybe just push straight through to Grenada. We'll see in a few days. It looks like there's a light patch up there with high pressure that might be a problem. Anyway, beam reaching in these waves, it's kind of rough conditions rolling around, but hey, we're going fast. The autopilot broke at the end that connects to the boat over there. So I repaired it, but in the process had to make a hole so it's no longer waterproof. So it's in a nice plastic bag, almost certainly well enough sealed, but I built up this little shield system which now doubles as a shade shield in the mornings. It's Sunday, April 20th, before dawn. This is the final day of this passage. From French Guyana, I'm going to Tobago, the north end of it. And it's a beautiful morning. Lovely pink high sky, clouds, and half moon left over. Yeah, it's been a very quiet night because the wind is dying. So we're just ambling along at 5, 6 knots instead of doing 7, 8, 9. But that's all good. We'll get in tomorrow morning really early. Now it's midday on Sunday the 20th. And as forecast, the wind has gone very light. But it is also an incredibly beautiful blue sky day. You can see some small squalls trying to get going, but not very successful. Got the full jib staysail, and I only have triple reef main because it's banging a lot. I don't need it to be damaged more than it is. I'm going to take the French flag down soon from French Guyana. Wow, there's one of the bangs, and that's not a bad one. Pretty soon I'll go to my twin staysail setup, which is nice and stable. We're not in a hurry. We'll get in there sometime tonight, maybe dawn at this rate. Oh, it's the end of a very lazy, slow day. I now have my unusual setup of 2 staysails, the small one on the right, the bigger one on the left, and they're both on the baby stay, with the hanks interlaced with each other with the digitator. And yeah, it's a very stable, quiet setup. Whisker pole out to the right on the little one, and then the spinnaker pole between the 2 clews, keeping it all stable and well behaved. So it's sunset and we have 30 miles to go. We're doing 3 knots, so we'll be there early in the morning. It's 5:30 in the morning. Dawn's coming on, and I've arrived at Tobago. This is Monday the 21st of April. Yeah, it's kind of a slow ride coming in. The wind has turned now all the way to the south, which is a little weird. I'm going around here to Man of War Bay. I'm supposed to pick up a mooring there. Well, this is Pirates Bay in Man of War Bay. That's the town there, Charlottesville. Can't see much of it. And there's a couple more boats moored over there. It's amazing how much of the natural vegetation remains. I'm going to go around into the sun here to show that there's a couple of boats moored over on this side with me. Trinidad and Tobago have the worst entry, exit, and travel procedures I encountered. First, their entry and exit procedures are entirely paper forms. Most require it in triplicate and one even quadruplicate, each with mostly redundant information on them and no carbon copy paper in one of the 3 offices. In addition to the usual immigration and customs officials and forms, they also have a health and quarantine official who simply interviews you with no boat visit, a completely pointless exercise. At least they were mostly pleasant officials on Tobago, less so later in Trinidad. They also have a highly inconvenient procedure ruling travel within the country, requiring that if one wishes to visit other bays on either side of the island of Tobago, one must return to one's check-in port, in my case Charlottesville in the northeast corner, to then check out to go either to the other side of the island, where the equivalent port is Scarborough on the southwest corner, or, as I did next, sail on to Trinidad, where one has to check in again. Note the absurd $20,000 supposed penalty for contravention of these rules. This check-in port of Charlottesville on Man-O-War Bay also has a local private organization called ERIC, providing moorings that one is required to use, ostensibly to protect the sea bottom and coral, with an even more absurd penalty of $50,000 for anchoring. On their website, they claim to have 30 moorings available, and the costs are reasonable. However, there are actually only 11 moorings, 2 of which were occupied by derelict vessels, and I was very fortunate to get the last available mooring. A final unusual notice informs one that any form of camouflage clothing is forbidden, apparently a law introduced after uprisings in the 70s and 80s, something also enforced in some other Caribbean countries, like St. Lucia. Charlottesville has a new and much appreciated dinghy dock adjacent to their pier. The local small fishing boats are colorfully painted and named, and they have a nominal effort to beautify the pier. However, the village otherwise is rather run down and strewn with trash, which accumulates on their waterfront. It was hard to look past this and the decrepit buildings, and the 2 public toilets were unusable. However, the locals were friendly for the most part and innovative in their poverty, as with this device for squeezing juice from sugarcane. It took me a couple of days to warm up to the place, especially after the miserable check-in procedure. Typical of tropical islands, chickens ran wild, but this cockfight was the first I saw anywhere. There's a cockfight here on the edge of the street. Man-O-War Bay is wonderfully sheltered from easterlies, although less so from southeasterlies, and provided excellent views of the sunset. But one had to wait for the sun to rise above the hills in the mornings, which were wonderfully still for the dawn chorus. Well, it's 5 a.m. I'm in Man-O-War Bay, Tobago. And this is the dawn chorus. I hope it's audible over the waves and the wind. I have no idea what these birds are. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of April. This is a little bay called Pirates Bay. It's where I was moored the first night, just in front of this little white abandoned boat here. There's a nice little beach on this side over here, but we didn't go in there. Snorkeled the rocks, some fish there. And yeah, the other boats, Dutch and American, and the one on the left is from Michigan. So then this is the rest of the bay. As usual, it's a cloudy, somewhat rainy day, but I've moved. We've got the last of 5 moorings over here. This boat in the middle, Dutch boat, Frank and Bianca, called Ivy. Just met, and there's all the fishing boats all on their little moorings there, and the very edge of town with the beach in front, and you can just see the pier sticking out. Trinidad and Tobago are well known for their wonderful bird life, and on my walks I saw quite a few interesting species. With the aid of this excellent book in the library, I believe the loudly calling birds in the morning were golden oropendulas, as pictured in this plate from the book, and there are links to videos of them in the description. On my walk up the nearby hills, I saw several of these motmots, a small predator which are extraordinarily colorful with unusual tails, as shown better in this plate image. As expected for the neotropics, there were lots of hummingbirds, although until I got to Trinidad, sightings were so fleeting it was near impossible to identify species, of which there are 2 entire plates in the book. Another unusual bird I saw several times is the rufous-tailed jacama, another noisy bird, shown middle left in this plate, but unfortunately I did not see any of these even more unusual birds on either island. Just as on the ocean, bird watching makes walks on land particularly interesting for me, and on my 3rd day I caught a local bus across the steep hills of the interior, indicated by the black line at the top of this map, to a village called Speyside on the southern or Atlantic side of the island. My objective was a nearby small island called Little Tobago, which is entirely a nature reserve, and a local fisherman gave me a ride over to it, where I walked some of the trails on the island. Oh, it's Wednesday, 23rd of April, and way over there is a little village called Speyside. So I got a boat to bring me over to this island. This is called Little Tobago. It's a nature reserve. And this big seabird nesting area here. Plus on the outside there are the islands that I came around on Monday morning real early. And down in front here you can see the sargasso on the beachfront at Speyside. It's piled feet high. More seabird nesting on this side. And these beautiful palms. These don't produce coconuts. There's something else. Really nice. Alright, out of breath and very hot. I made it to the top of the island, but yeah, not much of a view. So, head on back down, try to find the path back. Some of these paths are very obvious, some of them are a lot less obvious. At this viewpoint, I found 2 nesting tropic birds, which are really beautiful. And along the trails, they had suspended cut open plastic tubes that were regularly replenished with water, attracting many of the birds on this very dry island. Back in Speyside, the sargasso was piled deep along the shore, exposed to the trade winds. Wow, the sargasso is piled up in this bay. Just mountainous all the way across here. Coming in over there through with the trade winds. This is the village called Speyside. This is typical scene. Big audio setup. Interesting little park here. Just went out on a boat there to the Little Tobago Island. I guess there's a party tonight. There's quite colourful houses up on the hillside here. And a really organised soccer field. They must have some good games here. Anyway, I got to catch a bus back to Charlottesville to check out, to go to Trinidad. Eventually I discovered that the buses only go clockwise around the island, so I had a long walk through Speyside while hitchhiking before finally a kind local stopped and gave me a ride back to Charlottesville. In the next episode I sail on to Trinidad, but not before making a semi-illegal stop at a beautiful bay along the way.